All right, kiddos, we're going to talk a little bit about what it takes to become a volcanologist. It's a lot of syllables. So let's go ahead and see if I can play this video first, and then we'll go through a couple of fun facts. All right, so in that little video, you could see some really crazy cool volcanoes. And one thing that you should have noticed is that a lot of them have kind of a mountainous shape to them. Some of them form craters. Sometimes the craters have water in them, but all of them erupt things. And by erupt things, I mean like lava, which was the red hot oozy goozy stuff that you saw, or ash, which is really violent, explosive, like pulverized rock, like rock powder. So what is a volcanologist? Volcanologists study, obviously, volcanoes. So they study the earth, they study why, how, where volcanoes erupt. A lot of them have really cool backgrounds in science. So like my background was in geology, and geology is the study of the earth and natural disasters and how earth changes through time. Chemistry, which is the study of atoms and matter, and then physics, which is the study of energy and motion. So they have really different backgrounds in a lot of the sciences. So what do volcanologists do? Well, they can be scientists that study like the past behavior of volcanoes, like why they erupted, how they erupted in the past, or possibly studying present volcanic eruptions, like in Hawaii. They can also do a lot of chemistry, so they collect and they analyze like rock or gas samples. They can make maps of volcanoes or maps of the volcanic hazards, which affect a lot of people that live in and around volcanic areas. They can also classify eruption styles. So some volcanoes are like really explosive and they tend to be more violent than those that are kind of like calm, meaning that you could view the volcano from afar and not be too worried about getting yourself hurt. And then the last thing volcanologists do is they can predict and plan for eruptions. So obviously, people need to know that live in and around volcanoes what the hazards are for a future eruption. So these people can also help to evacuate areas if there's any present danger. So what did I do? Well, my background in college was geology. And then I went on to like more college, basically graduate school, and I studied volcanoes in graduate school. So I studied geology for about 7 years in college. That's where you tend to go after you graduate from high school. So you girls have a little bit of time left before you make those big decisions. But what I did in graduate school is I worked on a project where I actually traveled to South America. So this picture here is a picture of volcanoes in what are called the Andes Mountains. And the Andes Mountains are in South America. So I traveled to a country called Chile and drove up into these mountainous regions and studied the volcanoes in that area. And I spent about a month at a time. I went twice. And I collected rock samples. I did quite a bit of chemical analysis on those rock samples. And I basically created a volcanic map of my field area, and then also wrote and published some geologic papers. So you can see my name there at the bottom on one of those papers, which has a lot of words in the title. But basically I studied volcanoes that were kind of older, but then related them to what volcanoes in the area of Chile and the Andes, what they typically do when they erupt. So what is a volcano? Here's some cool pictures. A volcano can be an opening in the Earth's crust where either lava, like you see here on the right, or ash or gas, like you see on the left, erupt. And volcanoes can be explosive or non-explosive. So contrary to what you might think on the right, it's not really explosive. Could be. On the left, when you see ash and a lot of gas, pretty explosive. Where do volcanoes form? Most volcanoes form in an area that we call the Ring of Fire. So I'm going to show you a map. It's kind of hard to see here on the map, but you can see the red. All of the red dots represent volcanoes around the world. So you can see kind of on the left over here, there's a big area around the Pacific Ocean. And right in the middle is the island of Hawaii. So Hawaii is famous for its volcanoes, but so are, like if you look kind of in the middle towards the bottom, you see South America. That's where the Andes Mountains are. If you go up a little bit, you go through Central America and Mexico. If you go all the way up, you go through North America. The west side, the west coast of North America has lots of volcanoes. Then you can go up to Alaska and all the way around to Japan. And then the islands of Indonesia, Australia, and New Zealand. That whole area is called the Ring of Fire, and it's famous for its volcanoes. And then kind of in the middle of the oceans, we have what are called the mid-ocean ridges. So these are areas that are mostly underwater that you can't see, where Earth is kind of opening up along what you'll eventually learn about. They're called tectonic plate boundaries. And there are volcanoes in these areas too. They're pretty cool underwater volcanoes. And then we got some weird places called the hot spots. Hot spots tend to form not along these tectonic plate boundaries, but kind of like in the middle. So like Hawaii is an example of a hot spot. And it is what it sounds like. There's hot molten rock, lava, that erupts from these hot spots. Another famous hot spot is Yellowstone. Now, Yellowstone is in the United States. It's out kind of in Wyoming, and it is not a currently active hotspot, but it is a really cool volcano to study. Speaking of volcanoes to study, there's different types, and so we're going to look at kind of the quiet and calm ones, and then we're going to talk about the big explosive ones. So cinder cones, these are the simplest type of volcano. They're kind of little. They tend to produce really gassy eruptions, where they break rock into little pieces and parts, and they form this really rugged, kind of scratchy rock called cinder. Typically, these guys only erupt once, and then they're kind of done. So they're cute, they're little, they're explosive. Then we got the shield volcanoes. This is like Hawaii. So if you ever get to go visit Hawaii, you're going to see kind of a big mountain with really gentle slopes. Kind of looks like Wonder Woman's shield. And these tend to erupt lava, like oozy-goozy hot lava flows. And those lava flows tend to spread out over big areas, and they produce big mountains. But they tend to be not as explosive as the other eruptions, the real violent ones. So the last type of volcano is called a composite or a stratovolcano. And these guys are big, they're like triangular mountains, they're really steep, and they tend to erupt volcanic ash and some gases. And they're really unpredictable, and they can be the most dangerous. So if you've ever heard of like Mount St. Helens, which is a volcano that's famous in the United States, it's in Washington. It is an example of a composite volcano. So with that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make some volcanoes. And so I've got some supplies for you to make your own volcano. Clearly, you're not going to erupt lava from the volcano, but we're going to do a little chemistry. So we're going to mix some baking soda and some vinegar. We're going to make our volcanoes explode. And then we're going to talk about how our volcanoes are similar to volcanoes on Earth. All right, that's it.